Hit it! And welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori La Bey, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation as usual as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort. All right, here we go. What you think about, you will bring about. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. If you enjoyed our opening music, it's called Clarion Call by the Mark Arneson Band, and you can download that at any of your favorite music platforms. It features My Adore, and they are so kind to donate proceeds of that song to Alzheimer Speaks so that we can further our work. For those of you that are new to Alzheimer Speaks Radio, I'm Lori La Bey, and I was a daughter of a mom who lived with dementia for 30 years. And so I really felt this need to put out some platforms to connect people to real, authentic voices. And so our show is what I say is about sound information. Now, we're not about sound bites. We want to have real conversations with real people. And our goal is to raise voices, big and small, all around the world, from those diagnosed to families to people who care and serve for them, and then advocates and researchers. And you can call in today and join the conversation if you'd like at 323-870-4602. That's 323-870-4602. I also want to thank you, our listeners, because you guys have done so much to spread the word of our work here. And I truly, truly appreciate that more than you'll ever know. Your likes, your clicks, and shares have just broadened our bandwidth of people knowing who we are and what we do. And by doing that, you are helping build that sense of community, that collaboration, that comfort that we all need to win this battle against dementia. Now, today we are going to be having a conversation with an author who wrote the children's book, which is just a wonderful, wonderful book called A Doll for Grandma. And I will introduce you to Paulette Sharkey shortly, but I want to give a couple of shout-outs. First, to the Memory Cafe Directory. I adore them. They have pulled together, I believe it's over 900 cafes here in the U.S. now, really easy to find on their directory. And they also have what they call Cafe Connect, which is listing the virtual memory cafes that are going live via Zoom and different platforms. So you can participate in those. They don't have to be in your backyard anymore, which is wonderful. I also want to give a shout out to Coro Health, that's CORO Health, because they have really stepped in to help fight this battle with COVID and the social distancing that's going on. And it's offering their streaming services for Music First and Coro Health free. So just Google Coro Health, and you can go ahead and download those apps. Again, it's Music First and Coro Faith for free. They're just wonderful. And last, I'm going to just give a shout out to Barbara Lee Friedman from Music Memories, Minnesota. We just did another sing-along with hers that is posted. It's on our YouTube channel, on our blog, etc. So there are now 4 of those out there. We also have archived many of our dementia chats, which is where I facilitate a conversation with people living with dementia. We cover a variety of topics as well as dementia quick tips. So you definitely want to check out Alzheimer Speaks and maybe subscribe not only just to the radio show, but to the YouTube channel as well to get more information. And as you most all know, all of our shows here are archived as well, and we've been doing this since 2011, so there's a lot of shows out there. So let me go ahead and introduce you to Paulette Sharkey. She is a writer and a pianist who performs in assisted livings and memory care facilities in her community. Her writing has appeared in parenting and children's magazines. Excuse me. And she recently published her first children's book, which is called A Doll for Grandma, a story about Alzheimer's. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful book that is illustrated by Samantha Wu with Beaming Books, and just hit the presses out there. I believe it was this May. And so I am so, like I said, I'm so excited to have Paulette Sharkey with us. How are you doing, Paulette?
Great. Thanks so much for having me today.
Well, I always ask all of my guests if they've been personally touched by dementia in their own circle of friends or family. But I also want to ask if you've been touched in that circle of friends or family by COVID as well, because those are kind of the two hot buttons right now.
By Alzheimer's, yes. By COVID, no, thankfully not yet. But my husband and I have been self-isolating since early March, so we're not taking any chances.
Well, that's good. I have been too. I was out speaking in New Jersey, and I'll probably never forget that date, March 12th, when I was coming home. And boy, did things change. And little did I know I was leaving the hotbed when I was on my way home. And so I self-isolated, and I've stayed pretty much in lockdown most of the time. I'll venture out to the store every now and then, but I have broken my rule of online shopping now. I'm having a lot of things delivered these days, and doing much more online than what I felt comfortable with prior.
Yes, well, that's the time to do it.
Yeah.
I, of course, have not been able to play the piano in any of the memory care or assisted living facilities where I had been for about 15 years. And I do intend to go back, but they're all closed right now to visitors.
Oh, yeah. Have you ever thought about doing like a Zoom, like a video?
I haven't. I think that would be pretty difficult for them to do in the homes. But if this goes on for the rest of the summer, I would possibly consider that. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Like I said, in my intro, I've done 4 now with a musician here, a guitarist who sings and things, and plays a guitar, and people have really enjoyed those quite a bit. So, yeah, you never know. Music is so powerful. Well, let's get to talking about your book, A Doll for Grandma. First, I want to ask, where did the concept come from, and how did you pick the title?
I'll tell you where the concept came from first. It came through the piano. The whole idea to write the book came through the piano. I had read about 15 years ago, I read that music is a very powerful way to connect with people who have Alzheimer's, that the musical memories are held in a part of the brain that's often not damaged by Alzheimer's. So I decided I would go out and play the piano for residents of memory care homes and see if that was true, and the results were absolutely astounding. People who couldn't recognize family and friends would respond to the music. People who could no longer speak could actually sing the songs that I selected, as long as they were songs that they had an emotional connection to. So I played a lot of songs from their youth, from World War II era. And during that time, I did observe women holding babies. And that is where the idea of a doll for grandma came from. It brings a lot of comfort. Of course, it's doll therapy, but I don't use the term doll therapy in the book. It's a very comforting thing, and it gives people with Alzheimer's a feeling that they matter, that they have a role to play. Also, when my mother was in the last few days of her life living in a hospice facility, she was interested in holding babies, and she mimed a lot of caring for her own children when they were babies. So I could see the comfort that this brought, and that's where the idea came from.
Okay. Yeah, I know there are so many people that don't understand the whole concept of doll therapy and the comfort that it can give some. And I know even my brothers, my mom had dementia for 30 years. it was such a big pushback. They were like, she's an adult, that's
Yeah.
belittling. And it's like, to me, something's not belittling if it's giving comfort. If
That's
it's
right.
giving comfort,
Right.
if it's giving comfort to somebody else, and if we are really going to be person-centered or relationship-based in our care efforts, well, then it needs to be about them, and it doesn't need to be about our discomfort with
Mhm.
understanding it. If we don't want to dive deeper in that. How would you describe the book to our audience? If someone were to ask, what's it about?
Yeah. It's about finding ways to stay close to people that we love when Alzheimer's and other kinds of dementia changes them. It's about kindness. It's about empathy. It's about accepting people as they are. It's a traditional picture book of 32 pages. That's a traditional length of a picture book. I'd say it's for about ages 4 to 8. I wrote the text, and as you mentioned in the intro, an artist named Samantha Wu drew the illustrations. The plot, I'll tell you a little bit about the plot right now. A little girl named Kira and her grandma have a very close relationship. And then Kira notices that grandma is putting her keys in the refrigerator, for example, or she's knitting hats that are too small to fit anyone's head. And then grandma has to move into a memory care home, and Kira finds that the old ways that they used to play together don't work anymore. So she pays very close attention to grandma. She watches what grandma does. She listens to what grandma says, and she comes up with an idea of a way that they can play together. And that is by giving grandma a doll, and then they take care of their babies together.
It's beautifully written and illustrated, and I think it's just a wonderful piece because, like you said, it does talk about the goodness, the empathy, the kindness, the acceptance, and I think sometimes we overlook the ability of children to be able to just be so fluid. Where us as adults, I think, we have learned this right or wrong path, and we are used to eyes peering at us, and what are they going to think? And kids are like, well, forget that. I just want someone to play with.
Yeah.
I want someone to have fun with, and they just keep it very simple in terms of what it is they're doing. I've told this story a couple of times, but I think it's just kind of apropos for what we're talking about. When my daughter was in kindergarten, the kindergarten teacher said, "Oh, your daughter, she's just such a good kid, so kind and helpful." And Tom and I asked, well, why do you say that? And she said, well, that we have a little boy in a wheelchair, and she's right there to help him get around and organize his stuff. And there's another child that's a little bit slower, and she is so patient, and she sits and kind of guides her if she's having problems. And she's like, she's just incredible. And she's going on and on and on. And I just remember looking at her going, she's not special. She has not been taught to look at these children any differently than she looks at anybody else.
Mm-hmm. It comes naturally.
Yeah, and I think so often we forget what we've modeled to our children and what they're picking up and how we change as we get older. We get a little more paranoid of people peeking in at us and things.
What will they think? Yeah. And that word modeling is something that I use a lot of when I talk about my book, because the main character, the little girl named Kira, models for children how to best interact, and for grown-ups too, how to best interact with people who have dementia by embracing their view of reality, not trying to correct them, not trying to change them, not trying to bring them back into our world, but joining them in their world with their altered sense of reality that's in their head. And Kira does that, and that's how she's able to bring Grandma moments of real happiness. We can still do that.
Yeah, and she's satisfied, Grandma's satisfied, and I think kids are such wonderful teachers, just such, they see things in a whole different light, and I think that they can teach us as adults to look at the world different. And when I was reading the book, I was just like so grateful that mom was there, family was there to kind of support her in doing this doll therapy, which is really just play. And, because sometimes families do get in the way of stopping that, like my family, just didn't understand it, didn't want to understand it, didn't want to go there. I mean, they were still feeling so much pain, not so much for my mom, but for themselves, for the loss they were feeling. And, that really has to be weighed out. Can you, are you comfortable giving a couple more examples of the book in terms of how Kira kind of changed things, or what she observed, and how to make a difference, and how to still be able to play with Grandma and have fun?
Yeah, I wanted to show not just confusion and memory loss, which is always shown when people write about Alzheimer's, but I wanted to show other physical and behavioral symptoms. So I show Grandma being sad and Kira initially being confused, and then finding out that there are ways that she can bring Grandma out of that, or join her in her sadness and accept that that's how Grandma feels. There's fidgeting. She observes Grandma fidgeting, which is a lot of people with Alzheimer's, as you know, fidget. Difficulties walking. Grandma has to go from driving a little sports car before dementia. She and Grandma used to go around in Grandma's little convertible, to now Grandma is in a wheelchair. So difficulties walking is another thing that I show. There's a line in the book that a scene where Grandma tells Kira that she had fried mosquitoes and a cup of hot tea for lunch. And this is actually a line that was spoken by a friend's grandma of mine. A friend of mine went to visit his grandma in memory care, and that's how she greeted him. She told him what she had lunch that day. And he thought it was the most ridiculous thing. My friend did. Now, in the book, Kira right away enters Grandma's world and says, "Was it good?" And Grandma then was able to say, "Delicious." So Grandma then has a little happy moment with Kira, all because Kira decided to not correct Grandma and say, "Oh, you wouldn't have had that for lunch."
Exactly. And that's typically what we do as adults.
It is. We actually do that. But kids are better at making believe.
Well, they are, and the one thing I think that adults can really learn is, write those things down, those little isms, grandma isms, or, whatever it is, because as you grow and learn through this disease, they'll put a smile on your face. And, you won't be scringing, and you won't be afraid of it anymore. It's once you accept it, there's a whole different level of, I think, love, and, kind of that unconditional love that we have for one another. And it's those goofy little things that kind of melt our hearts, as things progress. My mom, there's tons of them when I go out and speak. I have all kinds of different stories about things, and, I get people laughing and crying. And I think it's okay for people to feel uncomfortable, but then what do you do with it? You know? Then how do you change it?
Yeah, and you mentioned frightened. People are frightened. I made a real effort to show the majority of the book is set in memory care, and I wanted to do that so that visits could be less frightening to children, to show a little bit about what goes on in a memory care setting, how there are therapy dogs that come, and how there's music. And so they can prepare. Parents can use the book to help the kids prepare, or the kids can just see for themselves that this is just where people live and they do normal things that can be fun, and they can have a visit without being afraid.
Exactly, and I think that that's a wonderful way to teach kids. It didn't feel like some books sometimes can feel a little heavy or disappointing. And I think with children's books, they used to put a smile on our face, and they, like I said, they teach us all, not just the kids. And sometimes a child's book is a good thing to purchase a family to help an adult more than a child.
Yeah. And I did try to write an uplifting book. People have told me I succeeded pretty well. They say they laugh and they cry when they read it.
Yep.
Because
very.
the most important, or one of the most important things to me, is to show the joy that's still possible. The Alzheimer steals a lot of things, but the person is left with the ability to love and the ability to feel love and feel happiness. And so that's what we can concentrate on rather than the loss.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. What were some of the challenges that you came across writing a children's book? Because I've heard that they are more challenging to write and to distribute.
They are. As far as the writing goes, first of all, picture books today tend to be very short. 500 words or less is the norm. And so mine comes in just under the 500. That's a challenge. Every word has to count. It's also a challenge to find child-appropriate language to explain a complex topic like Alzheimer's disease. And here's an example of a line from the book to see how I feel that I did that. When Kira is noticing Grandma doing things like putting her keys in the fridge or knitting the hats that are too small for anybody's head, she goes to her mom, which I think is also a good lesson right there, that you can talk about this. Children can talk about this, their concerns with adults. And her mom explains Alzheimer's to her this way. She says, Grandma's brain is forgetting how to remember. And I've had a lot of people say that really worked with children. They could identify with that. They could understand that line.
Yep. Yeah, and that is so important. And like you said, it is tough. I mean, when you're writing to adults, it's tough. But then when you have to really squeeze it down, it's kind of like a speaker who normally talks for an hour, and they're like, okay, you got 15 minutes.
Yeah.
What?
Yes, and not just the difficulty of writing it, then comes the difficulty of trying to find a publisher. And Alzheimer's is a subject that publishers still seem to think appeals to a very narrow audience. Now, I don't agree with that. I think that my story is essentially about love, so that it can work in a much broader context. But I was able to find my publisher, Beaming Books. It's a small Minneapolis-based company. And their motto is that they publish books to help kids thrive emotionally, socially, and spiritually. So my book fit their focus, and I was offered the contract as a result of a contest that I submitted the manuscript to in 2017. I didn't win the contest, but they held on to my manuscript and apparently continued thinking about it and talking about it, because about a year later, in October of 2018, I was in Alaska awaiting the birth of my first grandchild, my grandson, and I got an email with an offer to publish. So 2 very exciting things to happen at the same time.
Yeah.
My first grandchild and my first book.
Wow. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And one more challenge I can mention that's very timely is I would not suggest that people have a book released during COVID-19. The official book release date was May 5th. So people were and are very distracted. It's hard to get people's attention. Schools were closed. Libraries and bookstores are still closed. Summer book fairs have been canceled, and that's where publishers traditionally will show off their new titles to librarians and booksellers. None of that's going to happen. So I have to work harder to reach my audience.
Okay. Well, I will connect you with a couple of libraries, because the libraries, many of them are going dementia friendly now. So here where I live in Minnesota, in the Roseville area, and Roseville, Shoreview, and Maplewood are, doing some things. They have what they call memory minder kits, and so they're including different things. And up in Alexandria, I want to say it's Alexandria, they just got a grant for, oh my gosh, I want to say it was like close to $90,000, and they are putting dementia resources areas in every single one of their libraries in the county up there.
That's fantastic.
So this is really a growing concept, and so I think it's just getting you introduced to a couple people who maybe are active in that'll help. The other might be, are you familiar with All's Authors? at all?
Yes, I will be part of them once I have my blog post is written but not yet posted. They're booked until September. So once I appear there, I can be officially an Alz author.
Okay, wonderful. Because they've just done an incredible job and have wonderful resources and things there. So for listeners, that's another great resource for you. But and people listening, talk to your libraries. Leave them a message, drop them an email if you can't go in, and let them know this is a need. I know for some libraries, I've heard that they are still doing pickups. You can order books and you can exchange them, kind of on a drop-off basis. And like I said, with ours and Alexander's here in Minnesota, they actually have kits made up just for that have a little bit of everything in them. So that's kind of a neat concept that I think would be.
It is. I don't know if all libraries do it. I think most do. My library allows me to go online and request that they purchase a particular book. So that would be very helpful if your listeners would do that for a doll for grandma. And the library, of course, doesn't buy everything that's suggested, but it makes them aware of something that there's interest in, and they'll consider it.
Yeah, well, and they have always, in the past, really worked more with books that have gone through a publisher versus self-publishing, just because of grammar and all of that stuff. But with more and more books being self-published and fewer books going through actual publishers, I think that's given them a little run for their money too. I'm trying to figure out that process. So your book has gone through an official publisher, which is a rare and mighty feat that you attained there.
It felt like it, yes.
Yeah. So what area are you in again? I can't remember, Paulette.
I'm in East Lansing, Michigan.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm trying to think if I knew. I mean, there's definitely some dementia-friendly groups around there, too. Tapping into AAA might not be a bad idea for you either, because they're kind of heading up the Dementia-Friendly America groups that are out there. And then, but there's a lot of grassroots groups out there, too, like I'm involved with in Minnesota. Cindy Lesinski has one in northern Colorado. I mean, they're all over the place.
Those are great ideas.
Yeah, I just think, and a lot of times people are looking for someone to come and speak or do readings as well, which is one thing I wanted to mention too, is your publisher has given you permission to do a video read for people as well.
Yes, and it's
really
a limited time. It's during the COVID-19 crisis, and a lot of publishers are doing this. It started out as a way for people to have additional materials for homeschooling, and now they're letting these be available through the summer as well. So if people are interested in that, they can go to youtube.com, and just the easiest way would be to just search my name, Paulette Sharkey, and it'll come up with my channel, and it just has the one thing on my channel, which is a video reading of A Doll for Grandma. You can see the illustrations, you can hear me reading it in its entirety, and then that will give people a better idea whether they'd like to purchase it. If they would like to purchase it, it just this week became available in a Kindle edition as well as the print. And it can be purchased on Amazon. It can be purchased at any independent bookstore, Barnes & Noble.
Wonderful. And I do have that link on both the radio page as well as the blog pages for people to be able to click on versus even having to go to YouTube. You should, along with, to purchase the book. And I've got your website and your Twitter handle there as well. But and kids, a lot of times, I have a granddaughter who's 5 and 9, and I mean, we read books more than once. So just because, they've listened to the book with you reading it doesn't mean that it's not valid to be read again. And, and everybody puts their own inflection in on some of those things. And that's one thing that I've been having a lot of fun with my 9-year-old granddaughter is I really do a lot of inflection with my voice. And now she's reading to her little sister with inflection. And it just makes it so much more fun, when you get a little get a little attitude in there.
Yeah. So you do voices and accents and things, are you saying, or just?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
I'll mention, too, that there's a page at the end of the book that is called Helping Children Understand Alzheimer's Disease. It's a page for parents, written by ALS author Judy Cornish, who's the founder of DAWN, Dementia and Alzheimer's Wellbeing Network, I'm sure you know. And she's really done a beautiful job. That's on one of the end papers in the book, so a special page for parents there.
Wonderful. Are you thinking of writing any more children's books or in the future?
I'm thinking of writing more children's books. I don't have anything Alzheimer's related going at this point. I have drafted 2 children's books. One is a picture book biography of a 19th century pianist named Clara Schumann, and the other is a picture book about a little boy who has an experience that I had when I was a little girl and playing the piano at my dreaded recitals, where we had to play from memory, and in front of the whole audience I forgot the notes. And this happens to the little boy in the story, although he solves the problem in a much more creative way than I did. I just cried. But he comes up with something that's actually useful, and he's able to get back into his piece and finish his recital successfully.
Oh, nice. And, I mean, those are real-life situations, just like with the doll for Grandma. I mean, those are real-life, situations. And if we can, empower children to deal with the situation maybe a little bit differently, that would be great. I'm sure there'll be a lot coming out over just all the rioting and protesting and civil unrest right now, teaching kids in terms of how do you even talk about what's going on in our own world. And I think as adults we have to open up and stop trying to protect or hide, reality.
That's hard.
It's very, very important. I used to go into the schools and talk about dementia, and I was mostly talking to older kids in junior high and high school, but I was shocked. I mean, I was literally shocked how many were caring for a loved one, an aunt and uncle, a grandma, a grandpa, a mom or dad in their own home with dementia. And, they talked about their struggles because nobody really wanted to talk about it. They were asked to maybe take a shift, if mom and dad were working and between them coming home from school or whatever. But they knew that the family dynamics had changed. And, even young kids realize, like Kira in your story, she realizes there's a shift, there's a change, and she wants to help.
Yes. Yeah, she still wants her relationship with her grandma. She still loves her grandma. So let's see what else would work. And she figures it out. Yeah.
And I think sometimes we push kids away and by trying to protect them because we're scared. And they have great ideas that can help us as adults and can help the person with dementia and, really makes everybody a better person for really understanding.
And people love so much to have kids visit. It's too bad that parents feel like, it's going to be frightening to the child, it's going to be upsetting to people or to the child, him or herself. It's just the opposite, and that was, again, why I wanted to show the memory care setting in the book so that it wouldn't be a scary thing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very uplifting. And, so much we hear from people, these days is we don't have empathy. We need more kindness. We need to be more accepting. And these are soft skills that I think sometimes people overlook that are just so critical to civilization, to our humanity, to our communities, and our families at large. In terms of
being able to imagine. Imagine what it's like to be in someone else's shoes. That's a skill that we all need.
Yeah, how do we live in shared space and have that be dignified for everybody? Really, really important stuff. So again, I thank you so much for writing the book and being persistent. And I'm thrilled that you got a publisher for it. I think this is so needed. I've had a book in me forever, and I haven't really pursued it. And it's a children's book as well because I truly believe kids will teach us so much more. And even when you look at, a doll for grandma, it like you said earlier, this isn't just about Alzheimer's. This is about being better people in any situation. And just because we're using that story as a teaching tool doesn't mean it can't be applied to something else in life. And
That's
so
right.
sometimes I think people get a little narrow-minded with
including publishers.
those things. Yeah. And they really have to have a broader stance in terms of, this is just a good thing overall, for all of us there. What do you hope that children and adults take away from your book?
I think the most important lesson to me is that the people that we love are still there. They can still feel love. They can still love us back. Can still be happy. So be in the moment with them. Help them experience happiness. And the second thing I'd like people to take away is the way Kira models that best way of being with people who have Alzheimer's, and that is by embracing their altered sense of reality rather than correcting them and bringing them back into our world. And that's what Kira did when she and Grandma cared for their babies together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually it's a perfect match because kids play with their babies all the time in a different reality. We don't judge them. We think that's normal.
That's right. They're very good at playing make-believe.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you noticed in the illustrations to the book that Kira's doll is there from the beginning. It's a through line. And then Grandma has her doll, and then in the several last scenes, then they're taking care of their babies together, doing some of the activities that they did before, having a picnic where they eat molasses cookies made from the old recipe from Grandma's mother. Again, a real-life thing in my case. We have an old family molasses cookie recipe that my grandma made, and then I made with my daughter, and now she makes with her little boy.
How fun.
Yeah.
And those things are just precious. Those are moments that you just don't forget. They're glued in there, and it really doesn't make any difference if the person with dementia goes back in time to reach into a memory when they were young. It's still a happy moment, a happy thought, and no one's getting hurt. People are engaged, and they're enjoying the moment, even if they're pulling from different threads. It doesn't make any difference.
No, and that was what I was shown by my years of playing the piano as a volunteer, something I'm still doing, was that if you play the right kind of music, that people can access these great moments of great emotional happiness, great happiness, these very emotional things that have happened in their life. I play a lot of World War II era songs. That's the music of a lot of their youth. And they really respond to that. People who, are brought to the piano lady event, they call me the piano lady. So the piano lady comes to play, and people are wheeled in, and some of them are slumped over, and you don't even know if they're awake. And I start playing a song that has meaning to them, and they're lifting up their head and singing and being animated. It's miraculous, really, what music does.
Yeah, they become totally engaged. I've seen that. I actually have some videos of my mom with it's with Barbara Lee Friedman, and she, my mom was in her end stages. She used to be in the choir at church, and she loved to sing, and you see her in bed, and half the time she's sleeping, but then she wakes up. And she gets this huge smile on her face, and her, dimples you can see, and the twinkle in her eye, and her giggle, and even just, and her hands start going, and her toes start wiggling, and that is, to me, that is just pure joy, pure joy. And then she'd get exhausted, and she'd fall asleep again, and then she'd wake back up and come alive again. And, she could say some of the words, not all of them, but she could, still, she still knew what a beat was and how that made her feel, for the music and stuff. I mean, it's very, very important. And we can muster that up, not just through music, but through connections like your character, Kira, is showing us, to really be able to find that pure, innocent spot where judgment goes out the window and it's total unconditional love and acceptance and just kindness together.
Yes, and being in the moment. Yes.
Yeah, feeling that sense of connectivity that so many, even through this COVID, are really, I think they're having a bigger look at, oh my gosh, what it feels like to be alone and be isolated. So I think that's kind of been an awakening for many families as well, because they're feeling the pain and the anxiousness of somebody, not being able to be around somebody they want to when they want to. And so I think that's a whole different view out the window when people are looking.
I'm sure you've seen the pictures of people who go to the window if they're lucky enough to have a loved one on the main floor of the facility, and they have visits through the window.
Yeah, I love those. What are they? The cuddle wraps or something? The plastic.
Oh yeah, made out of plastic. Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, what a great idea. That is, but you can't use it over and over because it's got to be disinfected and things. That makes it a little trickier. But I'm thinking, wow, talk about ingenuity at its finest with that. Is there anything else that you want to share that we didn't cover regarding your book or your story or where you want things to go from here?
Well, I would like people to know that they can contact me easily. I think you've put my Twitter handle there. I also have a website, as you mentioned, PauletteSharkey.com. You might enjoy reading a little bit more about me. There's interesting little tidbits about me personally there, and links to some of the other interviews that I have done about the book. And there's a contact button. That's a very easy way to get in touch with me. I'll see those emails right away if you had any questions about that, about the book or anything else about the writing that I'm doing. And I also would like to mention that I am donating all my author proceeds to support Alzheimer's research, both the advance that I got and all of the royalties that will come to me. So I hope that's a little extra incentive for people to consider buying a doll for Grandma.
Oh, that's wonderful. Do you have a specific organization, or you're just going to wait and see where there's so many to choose from these days.
Yeah, the two large checks, well, they aren't large, but the two main checks that I've gotten so far for the advances, I have donated to Alzheimer's Association and earmarked them for research. The royalties, when I pay out and start getting royalties, I'm going to think a little bit more about what else I can do.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Well, that's great to hear, and that'll mean a lot to many people, how you're looking at things and where those funds are going. So Lord knows we need the help in the research. That's for sure. So again, you can go to Paulette Sharkey's website at PauletteSharkey.com. That's it's PAULETTE for Paulette, and then Sharkey, SHARKEY.com. And then on Twitter, she is PB Sharkey. And the video link is there, either on the radio page or on the blog. And then you can also purchase the book really through any of your local stores or go through Amazon, or can they purchase directly through you on your website as well?
No, they can't. But if they go to the website, there are links to all the places that they can purchase it. So it's an easy place to start.
Okay. And can they purchase directly through the publisher, or some do and then some prefer to have you go to Amazon and Barnes & Noble? Okay.
No, they can they can buy it through Beaming Books, and right now they are running a free shipping offer. So that's another option for people ordering directly from Beaming Books. And that's a simple find on the internet. It's just beamingbooks.com. Okay,
wonderful. Well, that is great to know. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to, write the book and pull this all together. I know that that's a long process. In fact, I should ask you, how long from start to finish did it take you to, start with the concept and then find somebody to publish it and then actually finish it all?
Well, the actual writing began in 2016, but I'd been thinking about it for a decade before that because I've been playing the piano now and interacting with people with Alzheimer's for about 15 years. So I wrote the text of the book in 2016. I submitted it to the Beaming Books contest in 2017. End of 2018, I received the offer to publish, and it was published May 5th of 2020.
Okay.
Not as long a process as many people go through.
Yeah, but that's a long process.
Mm-hmm.
People
is.
think, well, I'll just spit this out in 3-4 months. No, not so much.
It doesn't work that way.
No, not at all. But it was well worth the wait. I can say that. So again, thank you so much. And for our listeners, again, I hope that you will like, click, and share this episode like you have so many of our other shows and help spread the word. And if you know of maybe some organizations that might be interested in these books, maybe you're involved with a dementia-friendly community or organization, or even a memory care, assisted living. Sometimes they're looking for books like this. This is something that you can donate for them to have on staff and available, to their families, or you can just make a connection. You've got all of Paulette's contact information on. That would be much appreciated. The more we work together, the faster it goes. And my God, we don't want another 10 years before this gets out.
No, we don't.
Now that it's here, we want to pick up that pace so that she can make more money, so that she can donate to research and help that whole process along as well. So again, thank you so much, Paulette. Really appreciate it. And our listeners, thank you for listening. If you have any questions for me, you can get a hold of me at Lori@alzheimersspeaks.com. That's Lori, Lori, at Alzheimer's, plural, speaks, plural.com, or just go to the website. There's a big contact button in the upper right-hand corner there. You'll find all of our projects and initiatives and all kinds of things we'd love to be able to help you with. Or maybe you're thinking, hey, I got a story too, and I'd like to be on the show. Reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you. And so stay safe, stay healthy, and we will talk soon, everybody. Bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. This is Meredith from the Senior Fitness with Meredith podcast, where I discuss all things for seniors, from fitness, your health and wellness journeys, how to be all over strong and beyond. I also have my mini podcast called Motivation with Meredith. It's a great, quick motivational pick-me-up for your days. Join me, listen now, search for Senior Fitness with Meredith on your favorite podcast platform.